Fine. Switch on. I can't see. Okay. Switch it on.
הנה שואפתי אפתח ולא אפחד, כי עזיב זמריה אדוני ויהי לי שער, שבתם בי מסוסום ממעייני השער, לאדוני ישלם לך בחטא אל אדוני צבאות עמנו משכב לנו, אלוהי יעקב סלע, אדוני צבאות אשר אדם בוטח בך, אדוני אשר המלך יענני ביום קוראנו. Baruch atah Adonai, na 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 na, Hamadim ben Kodesh lechol. Amen.
Our story, Yoni's story, somehow, because I asked myself the question, why us, why Yoni, why our story? In a way, why did we deserve all the support that all this gave us? I think everybody felt it was their loss. He was a Scottish boy, and that it didn't matter that he was a Jewish boy. For once, there was something, some positive angle. Some hope for the future, and maybe out of all this, instead of there being hatred, look, we don't hate, and it's something that Ari has said, and I've echoed since, that I refuse to hate, I refuse to be like the terrorists who've taken Yoni away from us.
We immediately presented our condolences to the family. We were still at the hospital. We prayed to God that He might help them get over this ordeal. They have done a good deed in helping our little girl. Our blood has been mixed, and we are now one and the same family.
Well, it started, Yoni was a pupil at this yeshiva, and he grew up, and he was always here. He was here every Shabbat. He would sit right over there, and he was here. I think for 1 year he lived in London, but otherwise he was in Glasgow. And then as he was growing older, he had his bar mitzvah, and I taught him his bar mitzvah piece, taught him right over there. We used to sit I think it was twice a week, we used to sit, and I taught him his bar mitzvah piece. And then as he grew into a teenager, as he became more mature, it developed from a relationship of a teacher, student, to a relationship of friendship. And he became one of the leaders of the Glasgow youth movements. So it slowly developed into a sort of very close relationship. Well, it's a loss for the community because it's someone who was, one of our youngsters was killed. But at the same time, he was also, I think as well, he was a great spokesperson for the community. He was able to be very religious, very committed, but at the same time, he was also, he was able to reach out to all people, whatever their religious commitment was, and even non-Jewish people.
Yoni was a student with us for 6 years. Okay. Yoni's files should be somewhere. This is a copy of his university application, which he made in his final year at school. Straight ones, one being the highest grade. In his hires, again, straight A's in chemistry, physics, biology, English and maths. And he was very committed to his religious beliefs, but he was at all times courteous, at all times very understanding of other people's points of views, and wasn't at all dogmatic in what he said. Sometimes it's harder to write a reference when there aren't those additional positive things to add to the basic academic work. But Yoni had everything. He had academic work, he had academic excellence, he also had a range of other interests which he pursued.
Fantastic, and wonderful is most critical ones. Robotic family, friends, Debbie and John. We're here today to celebrate a love match, pure and simple. Debbie's pure, Giles.
Something that that upsets me the most is that we were brothers, so we used to fight a lot. You know, as you do, you know, you punch each other, you know, and you have little fights. And you tend to grow out of those fights and start having a more friendship when you get to the ages, you know, that we were when Yoni died. Well, you know, when he got to 18, 19, we started, you know, to stop fighting and to start having nice conversations and to get, you know, to really build a relationship. And, you know, and then he was killed. So we were very close, but we never really had the chance to develop a proper friendship.
The summer of 2001, the beginning of a new life for Yoni Jesner. He is to leave Scotland for Israel, spending 2 years in Gush Etzion in the occupied territories. 2 years of study in a yeshiva, a religious studies college.
Well, the idea of Yoni coming for a gap year to Israel was always like understood. It was something that his big brothers had done and had looked forward to and had really enjoyed, and it was something he was looking forward to. And he didn't really have anything to decide about. There was no decision. It was just something that he'd taken for granted. It was some wonderful year that he was going to have when he was older, like his big brothers.
I live in London and he lives in Scotland, so we don't see each other all the time, so we wanted to go to the same place. We felt a little bit nervous before we came to Israel because of the dangerous situation, but we felt it was very important that if we were people who supported Israel and love Israel, that if we weren't going to come now, who would?
But in the end, the boys made the decision that they wanted to be here, they wanted to study, they wanted to further their understanding of Israel and their situation, and they wanted to go deeper into their roots. And for that, we take a chance.
The first day, it was difficult. It's not as luxurious as home, and you don't have the, you're used to more comforts, the food and the television and everything. And I just said, maybe the plane is still on the runway. We can catch it before it goes back. Because when we came to the room, we were shocked how unpleasant it was. But we cleaned up, and first few days were difficult, but we felt very comfortable in the campus. It's a beautiful place. A typical day in yeshiva is spent studying the Talmud, which is the Jewish law. And the yeshiva that I'm in it's very intense, so you do it for long hours. So I get up at 6:30, and after praying and breakfast, we learn from 8:30 till 1 o'clock, studying the Talmud. And then we have lunch, and after prayers again at 3 o'clock, we learn for the afternoon until 7:30. Which is also, we study Talmud and other things to do with Jewish philosophy and Bible. And then we have a break for dinner. And after short prayers again, we learn at night Talmud again until whenever you can, till 11 o'clock. I do till 11 o'clock. So. Yoni and I wanted to come to yeshiva because, firstly, in Jewish law, one of the laws is that you have to study the Torah and the Bible, and study the Talmud as well. So if you come to yeshiva, you can fulfill that very well, because that's what everyone does, and and you're taught how to do it. And also, another reason is there's a lot of laws and practices in Judaism and Jewish law, and if you study them and why you do them and what exactly they are, then you'll be able to keep them. Whereas if you haven't studied, you might not know all the laws, or if you do know the laws, you don't know why you do it. So it's to enrich your Jewish living. It was like a new adventure. We both very Zionistic, loved Israel, and was just just absorbing the special environment that you feel when you're in Israel, but especially in this area. So I think he was very happy.
Farouk's family lives in Jerusalem. Since the Six-Day War in 1967, they have lived here under Jewish control, along with 200,000 other Palestinians. Their status here confers certain rights, such as access to the Israeli health system, but it does not spare them the scorn and humiliation of the army. For Farouk's family, the measures weigh heavy, as 3 of his young children all suffer from kidney problems, obliging them to visit the hospital almost every day, requiring a trip to West Jerusalem.
This is one of the roadblocks that we have to cross every time. You can imagine how hard it is for people who have to get through all the roadblocks and arrive at the hospital on time. You can see the army coming and going in the streets. Just this one roadblock could make us late for the hospital. And it's our children who suffer. Why are they made to pay the price?
I remember one time when we took our daughter Yasmin to the hospital. She was very sick. They wouldn't let us through. We went to talk to a soldier. We explained about our daughter's problem. He replied, well, I hope she gets better, but go and treat her in Ramallah.
On December the 1st, 2001, on Saturday night, there was on Ben Yehuda in Jerusalem, which is a very popular street with cafes and restaurants. So there was 2 suicide bombs at the same time, and then another bomb in a car 10 minutes later. So I was on the street at the time. I discussed it a little bit with Yoni, but it didn't really change the way we lived or still went into Jerusalem. You know, if I was to have been so shocked by it, that would have been immature, because we realized that you're coming to Israel and cafes, there are bombs. You know, so to think that it isn't going to happen is naive.
The deep feeling of wanting to be in our homeland, to be in Israel, is overcomes everything, because these deep feelings are deep. They're in the soul. It's not a matter of black and white. It's deep. It's deep. You want to be here, so it transcends. It transcends the chance that you take.
So we'd been in yeshiva for a month and a half since the second year started, and then we have a 3-week break for Sukkot, which is a Jewish festival, and we were going to Tel Aviv for the festival. We got a taxi to take us to the central bus station in Jerusalem, and in the taxi, the taxi driver saw we had luggage, and he asked where we're going, so we said Tel Aviv. So he said, "Let me take you." She said, "Thank you very much, but we already have decided that we want to take the bus." You know, and because of the terrorism, so tourism is very bad, so the taxi drivers, they're very pushy and they really want to get business. And Yoni picked up his suitcase and he ran towards the bus. Now, with hindsight, it was very symbolic, you know. Even on the bus terminal where the platform was, so it was very dark. It was like a tunnel, and at the end where the bus was like a light. He was running to his death. It was like deep down it was his time to go. So we went on the bus, and we were just looking out on the bus. We had our suitcases, so we didn't sit down because there was no room. So we were standing in the middle of the bus. And Yoni was standing behind me, and so about, not sure, maybe 15 minutes into the ride, there was an explosion, and I looked behind me where Yoni had been standing, and he was just sitting on the floor. At first I didn't understand because my body had been in front of Yoni's, so I was blocking him, so I couldn't understand how anything had got past me and not hit me, but hit him, and I was, you know, crying and in shock, and he was just sitting there And I didn't know what to think. I didn't know if he was dead or alive, but he didn't look too good, and he was bleeding from his head.
It's a shock, a reality. Maybe the question of security we should have discussed more seriously. And this was in Tel Aviv, by the way. This was not in Gush Etzion. This was not where we expected that there would be trouble. In Gush Etzion, the Israelis drive in bulletproof buses. In Tel Aviv, they don't. It's not expected in Tel Aviv. So here's my son in Tel Aviv, and this happens. On the one hand, we hear of these things all the time, unfortunately. But to be able to deal with the situation and the reality, sometimes you got to close your mind, you got to shut yourself off. This one I couldn't close my mind to. And I sat just in shock. What could possibly be my son Yoni and his cousin Gideon injured in a suicide bombing in Tel Aviv?
Basically, I go around all the different departments every day. Units where they might receive patients who are suffering from major cranial lesions. I'm in contact with the internal medicine and intensive care units on a permanent basis, both in person and on the phone. I'm informed whenever a new patient is hospitalized. My daily visits enable us to establish close relations, and the staff are increasingly aware of the work I do and are more likely to contact me at any time of day without waiting for my visit. I got the first call from the emergency services between 2 and 3 p.m. Yoni was there. His condition was critical, and he was in the neurosurgery unit. At this stage, I'd just been informed by telephone. My presence wasn't required, as they were still trying to save the patient.
After we had been in the hospital for some hours, we must have arrived in the hospital around 6 in the morning, maybe 5, 6 in the morning. And over the next few hours, Yoni's condition, the impossibility of being able to do anything became apparent.
And in the morning, the group of surgeons came and pronounced him brain dead. I don't know what the technical terms were. And that was the story.
At that point, I reminded the family that one of the greatest mitzvahs that one could do in this situation would be to consider organ donation. And I tried to do as best I could without actually convincing the family, to try to make sure that they understood the importance of the decision, and that it was a decision that few people have the opportunity to come to in their life, thank God. But that when the opportunity presents itself, that all things need to be considered very carefully.
He helped us understand what was happening with Yoni and helped us come to terms with this. Come to terms with this new reality.
Jeffrey Kashuk explained to them that donating organs was a possibility and that the practice had saved his own father. For him, it was to be considered as the best solution. After that, they talked about the religious aspect, because some of the family were saying that the donation of organs might be forbidden. So we brought in our rabbi and Yoni's rabbi.
They considered in their study that brain death is death.
Brain death because of?
Is seemed to be supported by Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, who's one of the main rulers of Jewish law. So he says that as long as there's no bodily activity that's from the brain, then anything that your brain controls, as long as if there's none of that, then you're considered dead, irrelevant of whether the heart's going. So he actually says that brain death is death.
There's a critical issue is the definition of death. There are conflicting views. So whether it's defined by the cessation of brain activity, cardiac activity, what defines that? And this is a very critical issue with regard to transplantations. Because if one accepts brain death as death, then the organs can be removed in very short order while they're still vital, still functioning, and before they degenerate.
It's the difference between murdering and saving life. It's not, it's such a fine balance that's why they're so scared.
The position which is taken by the chief rabbinate of Israel, who do recognize brain death as death. The father, Joseph Jesner, was open to the possibility. And I said to him, this is an issue with regard to which I was not going to tell him, I do this, do that. He should know the different views and take that into consideration. What I very much encouraged him was that whatever indeed is defined as death, and if indeed one acknowledges and recognizes brain death as death, then I thought that donation of organs was not only permissible, but a very desirable option, because one could then possibly be saving other lives and enriching and enhancing the quality of life for other people who at present are in dire straits.
And we had to consider perhaps what Yoni would have wanted. Yoni was going to be a doctor. He was going to study medicine when he finished his year or two here in Israel. And he would have, we felt he would have wanted to help people at this point in his life or his death if he could. And so we made the decision to spread him around, to share our son Yoni with whoever needed.
הבינני עמוד על מצוותיך, יראיך יראיני וישמחו כי דברך יכלתי. ידעתי, אדוני, כי צדק משפטיך ואמונה עניתני. יהי נא חסדך לנחמני, כי אמרתך לעבדך, ירבוני רחמך ואחיה, כי תורתך שעשועי. יבושו זדים כי שקר יפתוני, אני אשיח בפקדיך. ישובו לי יראיך, יודעי עדותיך, יהי ליבי תמים בחוקיך למען לא יבוש. few days later, Joseph, Yoni's father, had a phone call to the room in the hotel where we were staying from a newspaper asking him how the family felt about the fact that Yoni's organs had been, organ had been donated to a Palestinian girl. That was the first that we knew about it, and he came running out of the room quite shocked.
When I heard that the Palestinian part, I couldn't believe that. What are we talking about here? It was a Palestinian somebody who blew himself up in a bus and killed people and killed Yoni. Why are they talking about Palestinians? What's it got to do with a Palestinian? We already got the message from the Palestinians, and they killed our son. So I had to unravel my thinking. I had to give thought to what I was being told. I had to. It was a. But you know, saving a life is saving a life. And Yoni saved a life.
After the operation, she came out of the operating theater. The doctors were discussing the details among themselves. Our little girl was still unconscious. We stayed for over an hour and a half, 2 hours, before she woke up. And we saw journalists arriving at the hospital to interview us. They were literally throwing themselves at us. It was a real challenge for them to film us and to talk to us. They asked us, "Do you know who the kidney belonged to? Have you been completely informed?" We replied that we didn't know. It was the journalists who broke the news to us, and we were very surprised.
המשפחה מאוד גאה בזה שמתוך מות יוני אנחנו מצליחים, או יוני מצליח לעזור לאנשים אחרים, ואני לא חושב שזה חשוב או שזה משנה אם הם יהודים, אם הם פלסטינאים, אם הם לא משנה מאיזה ארץ הם מגיעים ולא משנה איזה דת.
This is actually an extreme story because, I mean, you think in terms of human beings, and you approach a family whose child was killed in a suicide bomb attack, and you tell them, listen, he can be a source of organs, and a few minutes later they will find out that the recipient is an innocent Palestinian girl. I mean, she's not involved in any of the animosity and all the tension, but she's identified with the people from where the killer came. And understandably, it caught the media. Now, why it infiltrated into the media, it wasn't absolutely necessary, I'm not quite sure, because, I mean, somebody decided to bring it into the media, and obviously it caught a lot of attention.
I
believe in peace. I want peace. That's one of my hopes. Let's hope that through transplantations and the determination of people to save lives by donating organs, that we can establish a veritable basis for moving towards real peace. When the donation is between Jews and Arabs, or from young people, even if it doesn't result from an attack, it's true that I always inform the press. And if they're interested, they come here.
At the moment in the hospital, when I remember, we agreed finally to give Yoni's organs, and it was finished, and they came running back a third time and said, we just have to ask you, can it be made public or should it be private? And of course my first thought was, well, why would we want it to be public? And then I realized what she meant, and I said, would it be good? Of course it would be good to publicize. If we're giving the organs, maybe it will help other people to do the same thing. So yes, of course. It was very clear to us that the rest of the world was stopping for a moment and coming out of the political and just coming into the human side of it. And seeing, here we are, here's a boy who's been killed just because he's Jewish, and here's a girl, and why shouldn't her life be saved because she's a little girl? And it would be terrible if we were to refuse just because she was Palestinian, because a life is a life.
The Israeli hospitals refuse to send ambulances, particularly at night, into areas that are nevertheless governed by the Israeli state, claiming it is too dangerous. Caught between Ramallah and Jerusalem, only the army ventures into Beit Hanina and Kalandia. Communication is often ineffective here. Yasmin could well never have received the transplant.
The major problem was getting the child, the girl. There was no answer in any of the telephones, not in her house, and not in any of the mobile phones we had. There was no answer in none of them, probably because of technical problems, out of range or something like this. So and they were pushing us, well, if you don't find her, then we'll find somebody else. And we said, no way. We'll find them. We'll find a way to get them.
I never allow 1 minute more than the standard 60 to find a recipient. But in this case, I said, it's not fair. This is a Palestinian girl. And we can't use the usual methods of research like the police, taxi drivers, and other means. No, we can't do that to her. So we decided to give her another chance. I had lost hope. Our daughter waited more than 2.5 years. Each and every day we were waiting for a telephone call from someone. In the end, I'd stopped believing. And then one day, thanks to God, they contacted us. When I learned that the kidney came from a Jew, it wasn't a problem for me. When I heard about the context of his death, of course I was very sad and would have liked to have been able to do something. Arab or Jew, it's of no importance, as long as she's all right. We felt like we were in mourning, and we exchanged a few words with the family. We thanked them for the good deed they had done, and we thanked them again and again.
In the media, they approach the story from more of a political angle. But for us, it's essentially a human act. It's about someone making a gift. At the hospital, they had our daughter's name. And there's a sort of a competition, because there are also Arabs who donate organs to Jews. But when that happens, there is never a media reaction like this.
After a time, her grandfather called me and asked me to talk with the people in charge in the hospital where they transplanted her, to don't let the journalists, the media, to come there, because she doesn't care where the kidney is coming from. She's not thankful. She doesn't have to be thankful for anybody. The only question is the medical question, for whom it fits the best, who is waiting the longest time. Never ever any discrimination is done, not in this treatment or other treatment. You never ask if the parents have this political ideas, or they are coming from this origin, or you like them or you don't like them. You must give exactly the same treatment. And maybe it's not obvious, but it is obvious.
بالفعل انه احنا كنا فرحانين بالنسبه للبنت.
We were so happy for her,
ولكن برضه في
but deep inside there was still some sadness.
بين انفسنا يعني.
Of course, we were delighted with what had happened,
فرحنا لهم من الوضع يعني احنا كنا.
but at the same time, this story involves parents who have lost a child.
انه برضه احنا تاثرنا انه في واحد اللي هو برضه فقدوا.
It's a young man who studied medicine. He could have helped his people.
لازم يفيد اللي هو الشعب.
It's a shame that his abilities have been wasted. The society he comes from will not benefit from them.
يروح ضحية أشياء.
This conflict is not ending. It's a conflict, above all, perpetuated by our leaders. And those who are sacrificed are people like us, like Yoni, and like our own children.
Showed that we believe we want to live together. And living together means interacting on certain levels. Even to the degree of sharing organs. It's actually a very unique and brave action.
I definitely think that this incident is a light in the darkness, and I definitely think that it's something that should be used as an example that, you know, at the end of the day, people want to live in peace, and people deep down want to help each other out, and wherever that can take place, it should be done. After what happened, I generally don't take intercity buses, but this bus is the one that goes from my yeshiva to Jerusalem, so I need to take it, and also I'm so used to, I've taken it so many times that I feel much safer and more comfortable on it. But generally other buses, especially ones that are just within the city that stop many times in all different places, then I wouldn't take them. But this one is originally, when it was quite soon after the bomb, it was a very nerve-wracking experience. You know, I was always checking and looking at people, and you know, I was suspicious, and you know, but I still like to sit at the back because I feel safer at the back than at the front. But I feel okay on the bus.
Ladies and gentlemen,
we now have two physical objects that represent Yoni. The first is his tombstone on Har HaMenuchot in Jerusalem. The second is the ambulance that stands before us today. They seem to stand for opposing themes, and they have very different attributes. The stone stands still and strong, and will remain in its current place for many, many years. likewise. Yeah. Really, so take care. Enjoy. I'll see you Sukkot maybe. I'm not coming home this summer, so... Hey, Lana. See you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm quite hot.
Thanks for the other day.
Camp. Gimel.
I'm going to be there to start this.
I look forward to seeing you. My life has changed. First way it's changed has been purely because I was so lucky to be alive after the bomb. I just came to learn that I have to appreciate life. So easy to let each day go by. You don't even remember what you did, but to be able to appreciate every minute and day that you have on this world, it's a blessing. I'm very lucky to have it, and but generally what I've learned from being in Israel and from being in yeshiva, you just learn how life isn't just to be lived to get through, to do what makes you feel good. You have responsibilities in this world.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bocha b'nivim tovim v'rotzav divreihem hanemorim b'emes. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah u'b'moshe.
Everyone's society is built on rights. Everyone has the right to this, the right to that, the Bill of Rights. Yoni was the most enthusiastic person to fulfill responsibilities. He never said, I have the right to do this. It's my right to not worry about helping that person or doing that thing. He could have always just concentrated on his needs, but he fulfilled his responsibilities and his duties, and I think that I've definitely learned that I have to look at my responsibilities and my duties in life as an individual, as a member of, as a Jew, and just as a human being. That it's more important that I fulfill my responsibilities properly and worry less about what I feel society owes me. And I hope that that's what I can take back with me. Try and give what I can to the world.
It smells burnt. It's burnt. It doesn't taste bad, I promise you.
It smells burnt.
I promise you it doesn't taste bad.
What's that? The last salute?
So he decided to go back at 1 in the morning to go back into the yeshiva to try and find another pillow, and he saw into a room where all the pillows and bedding and everything was being kept, but it was locked. It was the middle of the night, so he decided that he was going to climb in one of the windows. And as he was reaching over to the window to climb in, he fell off, and he hit his leg. He landed on his leg, and it was very sore. I don't actually know why it's a funny story, but
Is this in his first day?
yeah, this was the first day, and then I don't know. He just found it very because when you get hurt in yeshiva, when like there's one of the rabbis is like a doctor, so you go to him to tell him what happened, and it was just very funny the way he looked up to me. He said, like, how am I going to explain how I got this bruise to the rabbi? Okay.
Small picture.
I just realized that you can't control the quantity of your life. As I saw with Yoni, it was taken away from him. He didn't have a say in the matter. But you can control the quality of your life. And I'll be thinking that I just have to ensure that I use my time and my life as something productive, a life that is worth living. And I'll definitely not be saying goodbye to Israel, just see you later, because I definitely hope I come back one day. Joseph, you're leaving on Tuesday or Thursday? Let's try and get the bus stop in.
West Bank lads, pick it up. West Bank, West Bank, West Bank, West Bank. That. Strike of hands.
Get off.
No problem. Yeah.
There's a light at the end of every tunnel. You know, it says in the Bible, peace, peace